Hello and welcome to Starting Points where one thing leads to another. I want to share some things about a person whose name is Michael Ableman. What a nice name, Ableman. There's a story behind this man's life. He's been telling it himself, and it's quite a remarkable story. This book is called From the Good Earth. It was his second book that he wrote. From the Good Earth, a celebration of growing food around the world. So I've been to markets around the world. Well, where do the markets get their food from, and the growing of food? So there is a picture of his son who grew up with the making of this book. And he for his introduction, he's got this. I have to show you this. Starting points. And the starting point was on this farm. Now, this farm was once part of an area. It was all farms. His first book that he wrote was called On Good Land. And that's the first one I read, and I really found it a fascinating account of his work on this farm, and how people next to them felt, with the noise of the tractor, say, or the this or that. And that book shows an aerial photograph back maybe 30 years before. It was all farms. It was all market garden farms. But slowly, it was more profitable for people to sell their farmland to developers. And I mean, these are some huge houses here that went into this development. So this was the last standing farm, and he wrote about it, as I say, in the book called On Good Land. Fruit trees, plum trees, they had a spot where people could pull over and buy fresh picked. They supplied other places as well. And it was the starting point for his own son. So he works to get this last farm designated as a heritage site of what that community had been like, a remnant of the farming community that existed there. So he goes on, he's traveling, he's going to places. Like this is in Peru. Here's a smallish village, and look at the land under cultivation here. It's amazing. People are attached and live to the land, and I won't show you lots of pictures, but I always get carried away, I know. But here's one last picture I'd like to show you, because I think it was partly instrumental to him. This is in an urban area. In the distance you can see the high-rise buildings of Philadelphia. And this is a square that probably at one point maybe even had houses on it. But it became a garden allotment area and a center of pride for people. So that whole garden in the city aspect, I'll speak to in just a minute or two more. Here's one more picture. This is San Francisco, and this is rooftop, using flat rooftops, and that idea has been picked up in lots of places to grow, to use. We don't, but we'll make frames, and we'll fix up things, and we'll get the soil up there, and we'll won't have to worry about deer up there. So anyway, this very inspiring book takes you around the world on a tour. Now, his next book was called Fields of Plenty. In this book, he travels in the United States, going about, visiting, talking to people, photographing some of the endeavors and ideas and solutions that people have come up with to grow mindfully in harmony with nature, and it's a very inspiring book. He moves to Canada. I think soon after this publication. I've never met him, never phoned him or communicated with him, but I think the man is doing good work. Talk about good land and good earth. There's good work, and I think he's doing that. He managed to buy some property on Salt Spring Island, and he runs courses there on this farm. To people come from all around to board there and learn practices about farming. Salt Spring Island is connected to a place where I live in Victoria. There's a ferry to, and it's also connected to Vancouver. And he gets hired to establish a street farm there. That's where that place in Philadelphia might have inspired him. Growing food, jobs, and hope on an urban frontier. This picture shows how they have brought big containers which they fill with soil and narrow rows, and the intensive gardening practice. In the background, this was, I believe, an old train site, and or there's a stadium there, and I haven't been to see this, and they can cover these plants up to extend the growing season, and this I can see through here a structure that matches his latest book, 2020, that matches the this part, and there's the high rises back behind. Well, you can grow food on your patio maybe, but it depends on your orientation to the sun and things like that. And so this is Farm the City, a toolkit for setting up a successful urban farm. So as I say, does a lot to educate and share. Now the other thing I wanted to share with you was about Seasons of the Tallgrass Prairie. When I showed you that old-time book, British Columbia or Canada, 1913, all the grasses that were grown and grains that were grown for fodder, how much the knowledge about that was. This book, Carol Lerner, she does her own lovely drawings, and she writes about what the tallgrass prairie looked like and the kinds of plants that existed there. It's quite a catalog of plants. Here's a few of them here, just to give you a sense of and the variety and diversity in the land. Now, this is The Long Winter by Laura Ingalls Wilder. It's the 6th book in her series that she wrote about her life. And my children really enjoyed them. I've used this book with a class, and so thinking about tallgrass prairie, I've got a selection about a tallgrass prairie for people 10 years old. This could be read by 10 years old, and I think 10 years old might enjoy a number of the photographs and things in these books. It's not wintertime yet when the book begins. It's cutting time, where they're cutting the grains to feed the cattle and the cow, the horse, things like that through the winter. And so Paul's working at it. The grass grows really tall there because there's a slough, a temporary low point which collects water, and now that's pretty much all dried up. And he breaks something on his mowing machine, one of the cutter bar teeth, and he wonders if Laura could go to town and buy this, a new one. Tells her the name of the store, gives her a nickel, Fuller's Hardware, a nickel to pay for it. And she tells Ma that she's going to go. And Carrie says, "Oh, could I come with you and keep you company?" Which she does. And Carrie goes with her then. And they follow the sort of roadway path that curves around the slough and goes into the town. But coming back, Carrie says, because she can see Pa across, because the slough slopes down. And from where they're standing, they can see Pa. So why don't we cut through the slough? And Laura said, well, Pa didn't say we had to stay on the road, but he did say he was in a hurry, so let's do that. So in they go into the slough. And, of course, the grass is soon over them, and they can't see Pa anymore. I'll leave it there. It's the last book a friend told me about. That's what sharing's all about, you know. Friends told me about several of the books that they enjoyed by Craig Charles. And this one's called Apocalyptic Planet. And he does a tour, too. He does go to visit lots of places in this book. He starts, and I'm just going to refer to some notes I wrote down. He starts with a desert where they can find evidence that a farm of fence posts, maybe the top strand still showing in places, and then it's covered by sand. The sands blow and change and moving, almost living entity. We know that about the Sahara as it moves and increases moving south, and the efforts to plant trees and to create a belt that will stop that ever increasing encroachment of the desert. Second chapter, he's down in Chile. Third chapter, he's in the Bering Sea up in Alaska. The fourth chapter, he's in Phoenix. He grew up in Phoenix. He's gone back. Phoenix is one of those cities which has just gone from a smallish place to just building out, and out. And so a place that had limited water to begin with and an infrastructure that is hard-pressed to keep up with this development. He goes down and even explores underground where the sewage would run through and looks at the infrastructure. And the infrastructure to keep it repaired and up to date and all is a huge concern and problem in urban areas. And then he goes to Iowa. Now what have I got down here? Oh yeah, this about the sewage. You could walk for miles down here. Phoenix and Tucson nearly touching underground, anticipated to be a mini mega city in 2050. The sewer was built after the 1980s. Few cracks, pretty good condition for invisible infrastructure. Then he goes to the west coast of Greenland, and then he's at a place, a station that's tracking what's happening to the glaciers there. And then he goes to Iowa, which had been part of the tall grass prairie. I think I might even have a quote about it. We're walking straight-lined labyrinth in a state more than 90% covered in agriculture. Whole landscapes were erased to make this. Ecosystems tanked. This had historically been tall grass prairie, one of the largest and most diverse biomasses in North America, where a person on horseback could not be seen for the height of the grass. And of course, even in other places, these grasses grew up enough that the buffalo would walking would be tickled rubbed by the grasses, and this become a monoculture. Field after field after field is all growing corn the same way, then he goes to northeast Tibet, then to Hawaii, then down to a desert in Chile, and it's quite a tour. So, thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.